Welcome back for another edition of Narrative, The Road to 100. This has been amazing. We are starting the year off strong. We have another awesome guest. We have my good brother, Daniel Oduoroggorremassin, and he is going to be talking to us about his background, experience, and the work that he's doing with Borrv Concepts and digging a little bit more into healthcare and just continuing to build. Let's jump into it. Daniel, thanks for joining me. First and foremost, it's greatly appreciated for you to take your time. But just give us a quick introduction, kind of tell us who you are, what you got going on, and then we'll jump into some of our questions.
All right. So my name is Daniel Oduoroggorremassin, and my profession, usually because I love patients and patient care. So originally, I'm a registered nurse to begin with. Then the rest of the stuff that I do is associated in improving patient care. Originally, I am from Kenya, and I've been living in the United States pretty much all my adult life. I've lived in the U.S. longer than I've lived in Kenya. I'm in Indianapolis, Indiana, and I love it over here, and I just very much appreciate you having me and having these conversations.
And we appreciate having you. And the first thing I want to jump into a little bit here is our driving question. We understand representation and the importance of standing and being the ones to tell and facilitate our stories. So with that in mind, in the work that you're doing, what does narrative mean to you?
So when it comes to especially the narrative of artificial intelligence, the work that I'm mainly focusing on in healthcare, it means a lot to me because I want people like us to be involved with it because when we get involved in it, then we are able to drive the narrative the way it is going to benefit us because it's all about like what benefits us as a community as a whole. And the more we get involved into artificial intelligence, because this is the future, and most of the stuff that I've been working on, I can see the possibilities of what AI is going to be, how AI is going to benefit especially our community. And I would like to see more of us getting involved into artificial intelligence so we can actually drive the narrative because for the longest, especially when it comes to healthcare, we've been kind of like lagging in that area and understanding because like for me, even as a nurse working with patients, I find that there's a lot more education that needs to be done, not only for those patients that I'm caring for, but for the family as a whole. So whenever I do my patient education, usually I even teach the families, for example, like things like hypertension, diabetes, and things of that nature that end up leading to a renal failure. So the narrative that I'm trying to bring is to educate and take the initiative for us to be able to care for ourselves and understand, especially healthcare, because with good health, we are able to do anything. And focus and prosper.
Yeah, I think that that's extremely important. Definitely the educational aspect, and I really value what you said around educating the families in a lot of these capacities because we all might have to go in and we have a loved one who needs some care. Whenever we have somebody on the other side working in that system who can tell us a breakdown of what's actually going on, so that we actually can interpret it and understand it. That helps us in preparation for our lives, but also how we can support our loved one in that time. So I think that that's awesome. And I want to go a little bit into your background, right? Talking a little bit about Daniel and who you are and kind of where you're based and where you're coming from. So just tell us a little bit about your journey into tech and in private, really thinking about like how you got into AI and in some of that work, how it, the transference into healthcare, into tech, and how that all kind of triangulated itself. And how did you get started and what led you to where you are today?
So for the longest, I've been kind of like watching how technology is moving for a very long time, even before AI everybody was talking about AI like it is right now. And then starting back in like maybe 2019, right before COVID, being in healthcare, I was kind of like looking into AI a lot and looking at it and seeing the possibility of it. And personally, my background, even what got me into healthcare, was I was born with the pediatric nephrotic syndrome, where I've always had kidney problems. I was first diagnosed. Well, I was first diagnosed when I was about 5, and it was kind of like problematic for me as I was growing up. And then at age 12, my kidneys completely shut down, and I was put on dialysis. And it was very confusing for everybody in my family because nobody really knew what the future holds for the whole family. I come from a family of nine, four brothers and five sisters. And it was a difficult moment at the time because the whole entire country at the time, it was only like four patients on dialysis. Luckily, after when I was 16, I was able to get a transplant. My dad gave me his kidney. And for some reason, I never liked hospitals after that because of the experience that I went through. But as I grew up, completed high school, and I went to business school because I wanted to do business and nothing in healthcare. But healthcare was at the back of my mind. I felt like it was, just something sticking over there. And I remember my doctor at the time, my nephrologist at the time, really wanted me to go to med school. But I was like, because of the experiences I had, I wanted nothing to do with hospitals. But now when I look back, I'm like, oh, maybe I should have did that. So I went to business school and graduated with a business degree, and then worked in advertising and marketing. And over the years, healthcare has just always been in my mind. And then my kidneys failed again for complications with medications. One of the medications I was taking ended up scarring the kidneys, so he ended up failing again, and I got back on dialysis. So when I got back on dialysis, I was a little bit older, and I thought like the med school journey was just not happen because medicine and then specializing in nephrology is just going to take so much. So my other option was to become a nephrology nurse, and that's what I did. And it was very interesting because like sometimes when I was sick, they were confused like, where's the patient? Because I took the initiative of dialyzing myself at home, and I worked very well with my doctor that had a lot of autonomy for my care. I was able to do like things that most patients cannot do, or most doctors will not let their patient do, but because I understood my body well and I understood dialysis to the level that I was able to care for myself. So I did my own dialysis at home. When I was now, right before I got on dialysis, actually, one of the reasons why I took the initiative of doing my dialysis at home was I was in the in center. And so in dialysis, there's like two ways you can do it. You can do the peritoneal dialysis, or you can do the hemodialysis. And I did choose the hemo for one reason. Even though the peritoneal dialysis is much more very efficient, but I chose hemo because to me, for some reason, I like things that look complicated. They just look complicated. You got lines, coming out of your arm, and blood going through a machine and getting filtered, and the blood is coming back. I just thought it was cool. And so I just wanted to do that myself. And, doing that myself, I started learning a lot about dialysis. And I started thinking of ways, now I think one of the points I wanted to say was like the reason why I got on home dialysis and took my own initiative, because I was having lots of issues at the chronic clinic, where most dialysis patients usually go and dialyze. And one of the problems they were having was like with the patient access, because like when a patient is on dialysis, so you have to have like an access in your arm where they stick like two big needles. They are like 15 gauge needles that they stick to get blood to go to the dialysis machine and then get filtered and then gets back to your body. And most patients had a lot of complications. And some of those complications I was seeing when I was a patient, I'm still seeing them even now. But luckily for me, in 2016, I got a kidney transplant, which gave me, kind of like a new lease in life, where I was able to think and look around and see like through the complications I was having. And most patients still experience that. So what can I do to improve these issues? Because like without a proper access, the patient's, dialysis outcome is not that great, because if you need somebody at 100%, then you find if you have problems, then you are operating at maybe 70%. And if you want to work and do, continue with your life, it's going to be really difficult because you're going to be tired all the time. And I'm sure if one of your viewers is listening, is going to listen to this, I'm sure they probably know somebody that has kidney failure, maybe a family member or, a friend or something like that, or maybe a coworker or something. But most of the time, they're going to be complaining about getting tired all the time. And the reason why they're tired all the time is because they're not really getting the adequate dialysis that they deserve. And partly, sometimes that is brought by their access. So one of the things that I was thinking about was how can we improve this? or how can I improve this? Because even me personally, as a professional in the field, when they were training me how to access this patient access, the way they were training, and I was like, I would think there would be something better to train, healthcare personnel. But I came to find out that there isn't. So I developed a training arm, for the healthcare personnel to be able to train with. And then as we kept going on, then I started thinking like, how can we still improve this training arm to even make it much more better? And so that's when AI came into mind, and I started studying AI and the capabilities of artificial intelligence, including the virtual reality and augmented reality, came into perspective. And I was thinking like, maybe we can use this and improve this training to be something much more robust. Where so what I call it is like precision treatment. It's like if we can create, when it comes to, like, for example, our national security, when it comes to like, targeting our enemies abroad, right? So I'm like, if we have that technology, how comes we cannot use the same idea into healthcare and target the precise problem that we're trying to solve? So when it comes to precision, we want to be able to see and improve and then train our healthcare personnel way much more than like bring new ideas into the healthcare field, because the healthcare field is advanced, but there's always room for improvement, because like in healthcare there's always gaps that needs to be improved. And one of the things that I'm usually good at is gap analysis. When I work somewhere, and in my mind I always know that there's always improvement, so I usually try to come up with ways to improve those. And that's what happened with what we're doing now, and that's how Borrv Concepts was born. We were established back in 2023, but before we even started, I'd filed patents that took a long time. That when the patent came was even published here in Indianapolis, one of the Indianapolis newspapers. So that's where the interest of artificial intelligence came to me. And I keep continuing to know to find out how powerful AI can be, especially in healthcare. And when I look around, most of the people that are in healthcare, Mr. Scott, they are not people that look like you and me. So driving that force kind of interests in again much more momentum to even build a very robust system that is able to be scaled into other areas, and be a part of the people that are driving artificial intelligence and especially newer technologies. One of the things I keep telling my colleagues is somebody like, for example, Mark Zuckerberg or like Bill Gates. These people are just like you and me. The only difference is like, they may have more money, but just because they have more money does not stop us from developing similar technology, maybe even better than, what they're building, because I believe we are capable of doing that as a community, especially.
Yeah. And wow, just so there's a lot, because I do, like many people, know people who have gone through dialysis,
Mhm.
and typically it might be an older relative or something like that who is going through that, has kidney issues or those types of concerns, and of course they have to go through the treatment. You don't necessarily hear often a story like yours, hearing it from the perspective of someone who started out with kidney concerns and issues as a child. And one other thing I wanted to tap into before I move on to the next question is, I don't think there are very many people. I'd be interested to do the research of how many people actually provided themselves hemodialysis treatment. I never even considered that because it could even be a thing. So it's interesting hearing, number one, the breakdown, and the differences, and even you just gave me some education as well as all the listeners of how dialysis works, and even talking about the reasonings why folks might be tired and not getting the adequate treatment that they should have. I'm curious, even within your background, all of your work in the healthcare field up until now, of those pieces, those stories that you've given us, like was there a defining moment in particular where you said we need to actually work with the technology
Mhm.
and really drive this focus forward? Was there, you mentioned the idea around what can happen in terms of military and
Mhm.
being able to track and be very intentional about positioning. But was there a certain point in time where it just kind of hit you? You remember that moment where you sitting? Tell me about a little bit more about that particular time where you realized the potential impact that technology and AI could have in the work that you're doing.
So actually, that came in a little bit later. I spoke to one of the doctors at Indiana University. There's a hospital here in Indianapolis that I mainly work at. It's called the Eskenazi Health, and I'm not really advertising Eskenazi Health, but it's a great hospital. I love working over there. I love the staff over there and everything and all the equipment. So I spoke to one of these doctors, and one of the things one of the most defining moment came in when that particular doctor spoke to the Indiana think tank here in Indianapolis. And Indiana think tank includes Indiana University, Purdue University, and then Notre Dame University. And he spoke to them about what I'm doing, especially after I showed him that when the patent came out for this product that we're currently developing. And he set up a meeting with the think tank, and I was like, I'm sitting with the think tank of this academia and stuff, and these people are like well educated. They've written a lot of papers and stuff, but I have to sit and talk to them about my product, and they really want to listen to me. So that was the biggest defining moment because I realized that. And then when I spoke to them, then they were like really impressed by the whole idea, and even that I'd already gotten the patent. And one of the things that also surprised me the most was some of the academia, they have been trying to get patents, and it's been really difficult for them to get one. And they keep trying. But when they realized that I'd gotten one, so that was like really important for them to even continue listening to what I had to say. And when I was having this conversation, it was a group of people. I mean, I was, kind of like nervous because I've never spoken to that much academia before in my life. And that just gave me much more momentum. And when they gave me directions on where we have to go, it's just like a rocket took off. It just took off from there, and I started developing a team, to come together and be a part of it. And to this moment, we are almost having a complete team to be able to develop this product. And we communicating with the NIH for grants, and they are very receptive of what we're doing. We are talking to the American Society of Nephrology, which I'm a member of. We are also talking to Vascular Society of Americas, and also the American Nephrology Nurses Association. And in addition to that, I have a lot of networks over here in Indianapolis with different hospitals, including Indiana University. So when I spoke to the Indiana think tank, I believe that was like one of the most defining moment for me, especially after they also knew that I've had 2 kidney transplants in the past, and I took initiative of dialyzing myself at home, and I was really involved with my own treatments. And one of the things that you mentioned about even taking your own initiative and doing your treatments home. So that is one thing that we are pushing for, more patients to be able to dialyze themselves at home. And with the system that we're building, it's going to give them much more confidence to be able to take their own initiative. And it's also going to give the healthcare personnel very much more confident and understanding really what they're doing. Because if you understand what you're doing, then you have confidence, especially when it comes to dealing with the the cardiovascular system as a whole, because that's pretty much what we are working on. We are kind of tapping into the small area where the arteriovenous fistula is, but our goal is actually to be able to deal with the whole cardiovascular system. So that was one of the most defining moments for me, which also would include the processes that, the challenges that I went through when I was, after my transplant, because I had a lot of complications. And just talking to those doctors, and still talk to them even now. Some of them are even involved with what we are doing, which is a great thing. And personally, I would say that was one of the most defining moments.
I want to dig a little bit into kind of a subtopic that comes out here as well, which is intellectual property. And talking about, you mentioned securing a patent and going through that process and being able to essentially do something and make that happen. That when you talk to that network in Indiana, these folks in academia have been trying to do a similar feat and haven't been necessarily been able to do that. Can you talk a little bit about, well, first talk to us about your patent, what that looks like, and then if you can talk even about like process wise, what that looks like for the listeners, somebody who might be interested and have an invention but don't necessarily know the process of how to actually go through that. Can you talk just a little bit about that?
Yeah, so the patent processes can be really challenging because, like, sometimes when you think of an idea and then, you go to Google and Google it and boom, your idea is already up there. That is the most challenging part, to come up with something that is not there that is patentable. So it took me a while to actually even think about it. And it took me about 2 years just to do research myself to see if there's something out there similar to, what I'm doing. And so once I've kept looking and found nothing, and I even look at previous work of academia from pretty much from all over the country, and partly in Europe also, and there was something that looked like what I was trying to come up with, but it was quite not the one that I was coming up with. So there was absolutely nothing. So I hired a patent attorney to even do more research, with their team, to see if the idea is even patentable, the product is even patentable. And they also did their own extensive research, and they found out that okay, this thing is missing and is needed. It's been lacking because, imagine, it is crazy to know that. So in the United States, there's almost like 500,000 patients on dialysis. And then in the whole entire world, there's almost like, about 1.3 million patients that are on dialysis. And there's no standardized training to cannulate patients. I mean, imagine that. Because sometimes you may go to the hospital and then, just to start an IV, somebody may start sticking you like several places. And, by the time they get one, you probably stuck like 12 times and then you bruised all over the place. So we're trying to eliminate that. And so, because the technology that is being used right now, the best one currently is ultrasound. So you go and get an ultrasound, and then they see your vein, and then boom, so they try to shoot that over there. But sometimes when I look at images on the ultrasound, they're not even that clear, because like what we're trying to achieve is for example, if you look at videos from, like, even 1980 or 1960s, they're not as clear as the videos that we see now, even on television, movies, and even the media that we're using right now. They're not as clear. So the idea is to bring that clarity, almost to like bring those images way much more clearer, where we can be able to see where we're going. And that's what I call precision. Without missing, you go straight forward and you hit whatever you want. So something like that is not in healthcare. It's not even being used, not in the US, not even in China, not even in Europe. So that's why we were able to get that patent, because the extensive research that was done by me for 2 years, the patent attorney did their own research. And then sometimes just coming up with an idea can be really challenging, because like I may be thinking of something, but maybe 100 other people are thinking of the same thing. So one of the things that the patent attorney told me is like, whoever gets there first, or whoever gets a patent first, is the winner. And fortunately, our patent was kind of like similar. Imagine all the technology in healthcare, technology that is being used in medicine. This one was not there. So the idea is to create a standardized training across the board. And because of that type of impact, that's one of the reasons why we were able to get a patent. And even the patent, we're kind of like expanding it to even cover much more broader things, that AI can come in handy in helping us to do that, especially when you mix the healthcare training with virtual reality. It's just very impressive. I can talk about it like all day long.
So with what you're establishing, it's basically building on training for healthcare professionals and potentially patients too
Correct.
in this space, but it also employs and brings in the technology more so for like imaging purposes to make this I guess the scenarios more applicable for people to understand what's going on, and to be able to basically operate more efficiently and effectively.
Absolutely.
Awesome. And to think that it's something that wasn't there before, figuring out what's missing and creating something that fills that void in that space. So very valuable. Thank you for sharing the insights related to patents as well, because that right there could have actually launched the next great thing for somebody listening to this. So thank you for that. We've definitely heard some great insight as far as your background, what you're doing with Borrv Concepts now, the patent work that you went through, 2 years of research, bringing in an attorney and their team. Were there unique challenges that you faced while you were building this all out, and how did you overcome those challenges when they did come up?
So, first of all, even with the 2 year research that I personally did, after that, when the patent attorney even filed, it took about 4 years for the patent to come out. And some of the challenges is like you wonder if you're going to get it. The patent is going to come out. And then partly, of course, there's always a financial issue when it comes to patent because sometimes they can cost a lot of money. And sometimes when you get a good attorney, then patent lawyer, it just depends on who you get out there. But so the financial issue sometimes can be straining because things of that nature. And then just the planning of it, like what can I do to make this a success? One of the things that I feel like drives me the most is I still feel like this is part of advocacy in a way. And the challenges that actually even comes with this is sacrifices that you have to make. Just like everything, you have to make sacrifices. So those sacrifices, because I'm still employed, and I have to create time for meetings, and I have to create time for, and sometimes meetings go all day. I have to strategize. I have to do a lot of research. So there are good challenges that I keep continuing to learn every day, and it's just like nonstop. So as far as like mostly the extreme challenges, I would say that I face them in a positive way because it's kind of like a learning process for me, and it's a great journey because I keep meeting new people every day. I keep talking to professionals that know more than I know, and everybody keeps bringing in different perspective. Uh, then the network and the people that we are meeting and working with goes all the way to up to in Romania. So we have a really strong network. But one of the challenges is, of course, the like I said, financial and raising money. It's like our goal actually is to raise about $3.5 million is going to be able to complete to get us to the ultimate product that we want to be able to showcase to the over here in the United States to the healthcare community and also around the world. Because like for me, I've always been a big supporter of the United States when it comes to technology. I'd prefer us to be able to produce it over here for the United States and that tech competition, especially with the AI race that is currently going on. So the biggest challenge, of course, is raising money because raising money is not that easy, and you have to prove to people a lot, that they're going to benefit from this one way or another. Because at the end of the day, they keep telling me like business is business, and currently, I would say like even with the team that we've built, most of them are volunteer basis, but they're just volunteering. But at the end of the day, we have to pay the people that are working with us financially. That is one of the biggest challenges because currently we are aiming to raise about initially we were raising 300,000, but our budget went up to about 700,000. But the ideal, we need to be raising about $3.5 million. So and that can be quite challenging to be able to raise that amount of money.
It's a common conversation and in consideration. I think I've had talking with different founders and folks in the space. The access to capital is yeah, I think is typically paramount thing. Building out amazing things and doing amazing work. Again, it's kind of like for some reason there's always that barrier. Yeah, we'll continue to push and I believe that goal will be met and even surpassed on your side. So
Yeah, I'm
um,
very positive. Yes.
I'm also curious to know, just kind of bouncing a little bit away from challenges, because you shared some wins with us and
Mhm.
some things that have gone really well. Has there been one very exciting outcome so far that you have really been proud of? And going forward, what's kind of your hope in terms of long term achievement and your goals?
So one of the things that I was actually also proud of before we even go to the future goals is just building the team, just getting a lead investigator and being recognized by the Indiana University School of Medicine is such a big deal. And being able to collaborate with them, our lead investigator, we have a lab now, and where we can do our testing and stuff. And that is a big deal for us. The future, the way we look at it, and one of our hopes is number one is for to get more patients to be able to take care our own care at home. And then number two is, of course, we want to be successful. We want to be successful in this field of AI and bring new technologies, into the market. In fact, my goal was like to be able to develop by the end of the year to develop a minimal viable product, a MVP, to showcase at the American Society of Nephrology, and also the American Nurses Nephrology Association. And I think I failed to mention too, when you're starting and being early stage research type company, a tech startup. Sometimes going back to challenges too, a challenge could be like some people may not take you serious, and we are kind of like dealing with that in some way. But for me personally, I like that because I know what the future looks like. Eventually, they're gonna turn around and be able to work with us. But we are looking at the short-term goals. By the end of the year, we want to develop an MVP, and then the long-term goal, we want to develop the immersive technology where I can pretty much have somebody trained, from being trained from from here, and then it's almost like you can be in the room with me, and you're in Australia or you're in somewhere in Africa or like in Brazil, and then so we want to be able to create that environment within VR technology where healthcare is way much more advanced in those arenas where we can pretty much offer training from anywhere.
And I mean, working in healthcare, considering all of the responsibility, accountability measures, and things that go along with that, and also in producing technology, are there core values that you have embedded into just the way that you approach what you're doing, what you're producing, and that you hope to actually have as a as a standard or pillars for Borrv Concepts and the system that you're developing right now?
So number one is, of course, the patients, because I've been there, I've walked the shoes, and I still consider myself a dialysis patient. So safety is our number one issue, and then the patient outcome, patient continuing to live their lives in full without being hindered by dialysis is one of our core values. That's just patient being able to, to not be affected by dialysis in any way, shape, or form. And when I look back, still can relate to myself because when I was on dialysis, I was still able to work and I was still able to do the things that I enjoy doing. So we want patients to be able to appreciate, that too, and not be limited by just dialysis. But the better outcomes for patients is one of our number one goals.
What's one thing that you really wish more people understood about the work that you're doing?
That's a really good question. There's because there's a lot of things. First of all, I want that people to know that when it comes to technology and bringing in new technology, we can also be involved in building new technologies that benefits us. Because like when you look into a lot of especially in the African American community, there's so many people with a lot of capabilities, but they don't get outside the box because at one point in time you may get a nice job and then you're comfortable and stuff, and but getting outside of your box and doing big things, I think is one thing that I've always wanted people to understand, that it's not always just I can have a nice house, I can have a nice car. These are still not big things. Big things is like building things that are going to be there for even 100 years. For example, something like social media, like for example YouTube, Facebook. This stuff is going to be there forever, and everybody benefits from from this technology one way or another. And one of the things I really want people to know is like when you think big, there's places that you're gonna be that you would not have expected. Just thinking outside the box and being very, very ambitious to me, I think is one thing that I want most people to take from what we're doing. That no matter what or like however difficult it looks, there's still people that are always going to be joining you in your journey. Because like for me, I never knew that I was going to have a team like the one we have now. But we do, because like these people believe in what we are doing, and sometimes somebody just waits for somebody to start something so they can also contribute in that mission. And I've seen this firsthand in what we are doing currently. So that's one thing that I've always wanted people to know, that you know just go big no matter what, whether you're financially stable, whether you're not financially stable. Just go big and think big.
I'm personally appreciating that message. We talked about the issues around funding, access to capital. So I want to ask, if you had unlimited resources, how would you expand the reach of what you're currently doing?
So the way we're expanding what we're doing is we are applying for a lot of grants. Luckily, we have a great team that we are working on that. And then personally for me, I would really love, for the African American community to realize that we can build like very complex AI systems that are going to be used in this country and outside of the United States. And one of the things that I've always believed is, especially coming from Africa, I've always believed that the African American community is one of the most successful African group in the diaspora financially. I've always believed that we can do a whole lot with our financial capabilities, and we are capable. We can be capable of raising money. $3.5 million is not that much if you look at the capabilities of what people can. And if I go back just a little bit, a couple months ago during the election of when Kamala Harris was running, in one night she raised about $100 million. You know, that shows the capability of what we can do. And when you're financially strong, there's a whole lot more that you can do, especially with technology. So one of the things I'm hoping for is like for us to be able to see the benefits of what we're doing and how technology is driven. So we can also be stronger technologically in bringing up, especially black businesses and new technology, getting so much involved into AI, because artificial intelligence is the future. I mean, you look at everything that we're doing now, AI is involved in it. So I want us to be way much more involved, which I know we are capable of as soon as we understand the importance of it and what artificial intelligence is going to be able to do in the near future. Not even like 10 years, not even like 20 years. Just maybe in the next 4 or 5 years, we're going to be way much more advanced in AI than you've ever thought.
And with that, as we get ready to go ahead and wrap up this amazing interview, I've taken so much from you, learned a lot. So grateful for it. But last question here is, what legacy do you hope that your work leaves behind in the world, and then also related to what's happening in tech and AI in particular?
So one of the things that is really important to me is precision treatment, because with precision treatment we can reverse a lot of illnesses or diseases that affect, especially in our community, things like diabetes, things like hypertension. So precision treatment is one of the things that is really important to me, and that's one of the legacies that I would like to bring. And when we train our AI models, I want them to be very precise without any complications. Like when you go to get care, then you're getting the care that you need. And then in our community especially, and not even our community, because like hypertension affects a lot of people. So I want to create a legacy where we are creating like precision treatment in all patients, especially when it comes to the cardiovascular system, because cardiovascular system is one of the things that is really big, to me. Without understanding it way much better, when we bring technologies that help us, assess the whole entire cardiovascular system, I think we're going to be way much more advanced in healthcare. And the way I look at it in simplicity, it's like we want to create a company almost like similarly. I usually say it's like the state trooper controls the highways. And we want to be a company that able to assess the cardiovascular system as a whole, because that's the only way we can be able to create precision treatment if we master and are able to predict and see what is going on in the cardiovascular system. Like for example, what I mean with that is, so for example, if you have a clot in your leg, I want to be able to detect that before it causes any issues.
I appreciate just the foresight, because what we're looking at right now is, with you mentioning your legacy there, and something that you mentioned earlier that really stuck was the importance of us developing and creating things, that will outlive us,
Mhm.
completely, but will be here, 100 years down the line, what have you, which I think you're definitely, on the track and path to doing, just based on our conversation, what I've done, in learning more about you. Is there anything else that, exciting information or news that you'd love to share with the audience? And then also make sure you tell us, where can we connect with you? Where can people support you? And what's next in terms of, what you're looking for from the community.
So our website is borrvconcepts.com. It's being revamped right now. Actually, it's going to even look way much more better because we had just a placeholder, but it's being revamped. I think at the end of the month, it's going to be ready for presentation. And so borrvconcepts.com, it's got all the information over there, and then it's going to have all our team over there too. And then one of the things I would like is because I'm very hopeful with the with our community, especially when it comes to tech. One of the things that I would like to leave is we need to be more involved with technology and spend more money in developing systems that are very robust, that are going to especially help our community overall. And I know we have the capability. We just have to be brave enough to be able to do stuff that we think we cannot do, especially when it comes to tech, because this is the future and we don't want to be left behind in any way, shape, or form.
Yes, completely agree. And we appreciate your time, Daniel. Thank you so much for joining us here on Narrative, the Road to 100. It's been a great conversation. Continue to look forward for more. For everybody tuning in, thank you so much for continuing to come back and support. If you haven't already checked out all of the other interviews, make sure you tap in and do so. And then going forward, and with that, we'll continue to come back, provide more information, more insights, great interviews with awesome people like Daniel, and the work and the projects that they're doing. And continue to offer any insights that we can. Make sure that you visit blackaimedia.com and check out all of the resources, information, tools, the merchandise, where all those things are there, and to continue to grow, build, produce, do what you do, and support others in doing so. So with that, hope everybody has a wonderful day.
Thank
Daniel,
you.
thank you again for joining me, and peace.
Thank you for having me. Thank you very much.